András Cséfalvay to join me on the stage. András Cséfalvay is a visual artist, digital storyteller, musician, and a mythopoet from Bratislava, and he's also an associate professor at the Academy of Fine Arts in Bratislava. He's also a co-founder of the digital arts platform. András previously studied mathematics. He wrote his dissertation, The Usefulness and Reality of Fiction, and his interest is imbalances in the relationship between culture and technology, and political and ethical aspects of listening to non-dominant voices in the world of interpretation. And so this presentation of his today is going to be about reimagining space exploration, evolutionary history of the call to fly, rise above, geopolitics, the extinction, angst, and new cosmologies. András, the stage is yours.
Thank you. So basically the title is almost all of the presentation, but I will go a little bit deeper. Let's see if I can put it on screen. So RISE is like an anagram. It's a conceptual trope of making good acronyms. So I try to make a good acronym for what I'm trying to make. I use RISE as an umbrella term for, or like a framework for some of my future work. It kind of works with some of my past work, and I'll try to see if there is something that is useful for you from that. What is RISE? RISE is Reimagined Space Exploration East Europa Edition. So one of the things that really excites me is this perspective of space exploration. The second thing is, why are we accepting the US and Soviet models as the only kind of space colonization aspect of space exploration, and if small shitty countries should have a say about how perhaps a non-colonial, shitty and landlocked, that's maybe also important, country should have a say of how a space exploration could look like, and ideally maybe there is also some metaphysics included, not just well-funded rockets. So RISE is, on the one hand, a reimagined space exploration, but also some kind of metaphysics of flight. One of the interesting things that I read at some point, I mean I read it much later, but I think it's like 2004 is the original Nicholas Postran article about like future life ethics. The thing is that we often think of, for example, ecological crisis as something that the world that we would like to show our children, or this aspect. Now this the article mentions the idea that space is expanding, so there is a horizon of reachable space. So the reachable space is shrinking every day. And in fact, if we think about future generations who could theoretically fill space, then each day which we are not starting space exploration, we are postponing the possible lives, or destroying, not enabling the possible lives of circa that many people as they have lived until today. So we're not talking about just our children, but I don't know, 200 billion lives which perhaps lived today, and we are losing that every day if we are not starting space exploration. Obviously, this is a kind of in ethics we usually don't deal with the future life, so, but it still gave me this weird feeling that we still have to address it. And it also made me think about timelines. So very often in motivational literature we get this thing that if I find my goal in 10 years, then it kind of gets me to where I need to be in 5, and and I know what I have to do tomorrow. So I was trying to apply this kind of strategy in thinking about what to do today. And the problem, so here's where the problem arises. If we start with an infinite universe, then I'm halving infinity and I still get infinity, and then I'm halving infinity and I still get infinity, and then I'm in kind of a trouble. So what I realized is that at least I will just start with the end of the world and not set it in infinity, and then I can actually arrive somewhere where I need to be tomorrow. Okay, maybe I'll just go. So with the reimagined space exploration, I'm trying to find some tools and models, other ways how to think about the world. And one of the things that really helped me is he's a Slovak mathematician. Actually, he is also a Hungarian Slovak like me, Ladislav Kvas-Laci, who wrote this. He's a philosopher of mathematics. He now teaches in Prague, and he wrote this book, Instrumental Realism, which is quite technical, but it contains a very important passage about how we use tools to cut up a single reality, and the reality is together, and it only has parts if there appear motivation to cut it up in certain ways. I will jump on slide because I have it. Okay, so I wanted to talk about this one, and sorry, this is something showing. Okay. What I mean by facts appearing with motivation. So this is some old organism. It is, let's imagine the first version, which would be just a ball, a single ball, which has so many symmetries and doesn't really move, just flows in the water. It doesn't really have motivation to state directions, state facts of directions. The right and the left as facts of the world appear only when it starts to move forward. There is a motivation for it to be in the continuum left and the right. This would be a very simple explanation of what I mean. The facts appear with motivation. Another thing is that the sun, another actor, suddenly in these weird creatures who maybe already have some neuron structure or something else, suddenly brings something in these creatures gravitate to the top, and later these things become brains and eyes and things that can differentiate from dark and something which is below, and a new kind of motivation. So things in the world appear with motivation, and this is an instrument for me that I have multiple ways of cutting up. This is Klass's quote, that there are multiple ways how I can cut up the world, and I'm getting different world models. And then there are different use cases for these world models, and some of them are good and some of them are bad. And some of them are very hardly comparable, and some of them are easily comparable. So now to our current space world model. It is very influenced by this which one was it? Voyager mission photograph, which through Saturn's rings photographed Earth. And that dot is Earth, and now we know that space is infinite. There are places for endless colonies, and we can make a lot of mistakes because there is an infinite space for redemption. And the salvation happens somewhere in the limit of this infinite possibility. So we can make a lot of mistakes. Now I think that this is the model that the winner of the space race gives us, and this is the point where I am entering and trying to think about different models. And this is where I look a little bit into what has come out of the East. So in the East we have some interesting examples. I'm bringing them up as curiosity, but also that there are alternatives to think about it. So one of them is the Russian cosmist and Fedorov, who said that if there should be communism, then it should be a communism for everyone. So if we achieve communism, then we have to resurrect everyone and have freedom for everyone who ever lived. So I think this is kind of the zombie rise version of a world model. It is still very humanocentric. Another humanocentric is after Stalin's death. Finally, like new Soviet thinking could again begin, and Ilyenkov was thinking about the greatest thing in the universe is human thought, and it is the pinnacle. And without human thought, they already knew what we kind of usually say today, that at the end the world will end in a thermal death. So it will be just endless cooling. And the only thing that can save it is if humans make a thermal bomb as big that it will blow up the whole universe. And this is thought restarting the universe. And the only thing that can restart the universe and not having a thermal death is human thought. So this was, of course, after the bomb. And this is, I think, again, super humanocentric, but it is a bit different than the infinite redemption that we kind of have as the, I don't know, NASA version. Of course, there is a line there which is more like a comment that Roger Penrose's idea of a cyclical universe is actually pretty similar, because it says that the thermal detonation is actually the Big Bang for the new universe. So I think there will be an interesting across-time discussion between Ilyenkov and Penrose. But now I'm just bringing in some more acronyms, and this is, of course, Julius Koller, a Czechoslovak artist, who was talking about, and this is 77, so after the not just after Stalin's death, but after the two big Eastern European uprisings and occupations, so 56 and 68. Here it is Universal Fantastic, no, this is not the one. There is also one which says Universal Fantastic Occupation. This one is Universal Fantastic Question, big questionnaire. This is also a world model which we have in the East. So that this is the question that I am asking, whether there is a way we can build on these kind of models. Here I'm just giving some other models, because we have Latour's 20 kilometers below me, 20 kilometers above me model, which is almost like a hyperbolic, so not just flat Earth, but a hyperbolic Earth, where the important things actually happen and inside, and somehow the sun is also present. Or a philosopher Lukáš Likavčan presents us the 7 planets which we live in. So I think there are useful other models that we could use, and that could help us think about what is the space. And a super important thing is actually the scale of the models, because I think very often the models do not take into account how self-similar they are to the model makers. This is actually, so first of my own works, this is an octopus who is creating a world model, and they believe that the whole world is kind of very similar structured and little octopuses. And the idea is that we very often forget how our model making reflects very often at what we are. There is also one thing that the Copernican turn does, is that still, as it with one hand publicly, it takes out the mid-center of the universe from Earth and it pushes it into the sun. But it also does at the same time, and a bit more hidden, but I mean not for everyone. With the other hand, it takes out the middle, the reins of the universe from the hand of God and puts the center inside the human head. And now we actually live in a world where everything is revolving not around the sun, but around human thought. And that we still have both in the Carl Sagan pale blue dot, just as Ilyenkov's thermal detonation, end of the world, that it is humans who we are circling around. And this is something which we could. Okay, and from now on I am going to kind of propose some how I deal with this. This is maybe the end, so we can also go from like very optimistic views, this MIT search for nanomaterials, how to live in the cosmos, or the Benjamin Bratton's idea that Prometheanism is actually criticized too much from the other side, from science and technology studies, and that this kind of fire Abendean thought, the idea that everything is just a construction, is maybe not all the time the best model, and then the idea is how in all of these ideas find something still exciting and worth the exploration. This is just an idea of mine about how to solve the energy crisis of the world. I cannot not say that I see it reflected in the exhibition in the next room, which says that there is something inside me which is not human, and that I realize that there is also something very different inside me than what I can discover, or which I have models for. And actually it's an interesting calculation that if you take 80 kilograms of human or anything, it can be Christ, but it can be sand, if it annihilates with the same amount of antimatter, then it gives around the energy expenditure of the whole humanity for 1 year. So if we had some kind of method of Aztec sacrifice, we could use people or any other material, in fact, then we could solve a lot of the energetic crisis. But this is an art project, I'm sorry. This is more where the direction where Rise is heading, and it is the sky. So I'm again playing on a little bit with the acronym. So what is the sky? We take all human and non-human viewpoints and take their directions into singing, knowing, and yearning. So it is basically like Neoplatonistic beauty, truth, and good. And very often today, I think it is very hard to talk about truth, and probably impossible to talk about the good. So maybe beauty can save us. But this I am going to be kind of opaque about. I'm kind of interested in solar punk because I think in a short time we kind of have a window of opportunity to really becoming a galactic race, or kind of ending very soon. We could be in the last 20 years of humanity, or we can be in the first 0.1% of what humanity can become. So it's interesting to think about that very often we think about the end of the human race, but we could be really like at the tiny tip of what humanity will become, and we really need to finish the heliocentric turn. So we really need to push out the center from our brains, and my logic says that the first stop should be to put it in the center of the sun. And now I would like to end with a story metaphor, my own mythopoiesis, or my own myth, because I believe that I might not add too much science or research to this world, but I can give some new stories that might inspire the new technology. That's how dinosaurs survived. They had wings, they had feathers for thermoregulation and sexual display, and suddenly one dinosaur thought, what if I jump? And then it died, and the other one thought the same, and it died, and one of them somehow glided, and suddenly, 20 million years, and we have a lot of birds today which survived the extinction because they could fly. we already might have the technology that will enable us extinction, and this is what we kind of need to look for. Why am I optimistic? I don't know if I am optimistic, but I'm a mammal, and what happened to mammals is that they saw these flying birds, and all the earth was covered with ashes, and they couldn't see anything, and they were saying, what is going to happen? What is going to happen to me? And suddenly these rockets or birds or something flew above, and they punched through the ashes, and after 20 years or 100 years, first time the sun came through, and it was this cross, this bird, and through this cross the sky first time shined into the eyes of these little mammals. And I think we have this ancestral memory, which is either a false hope, but it is a hope. And this is with what I am, is that we somehow believe it's a cosmic Christ or a dragon or dinosaur birds, but humanity as the descendant of these little rats, we still somehow believe in hope, and it might be false, but let's see.
Thank you very much for András, and just a friendly